Hello and welcome to the Total Soccer Show. My name is Daryl Grove and I'm joined by a man whom, after an exhaustive search and a list of criteria, we only did one interview, and the man that got the job was Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
Hello. And you're still not sure what the criteria is or how it came about, but here I am.
Oh, I'm sensing some pessimism.
What?
All right,
No.
so today's show...
Especially not after that introduction. That was a big intro. That was bigger than usual.
Show, I'm feeling big. It's Monday.
It's an impending hurricane. It'll bring that out of you, apparently.
Yeah, that might be coming, right? We're going to have to keep an eye on that for our show schedule this week. Today's show, we are going to preview USA-Mexico, which is, Tuesday night, 8:30 Eastern kickoff. It's on ESPN this time.
There you go.
We're going to get into that game. We're going to talk about Mexico. We're going to look at the US team and see what we're hoping for, what we're expecting. But first, we have promised our listeners that we will talk a little bigger picture about what is going on with the coaching search, because Mr. Earnie Stewart was at MetLife this past Friday with his eye on the US team.
He sure was. And the coaching search is definitely, probably, maybe happening.
Oh, no.
No. What, too negative to
so,
begin?
Yeah, well, so it's worth saying that the day before that game, the Thursday, Earnie Stewart, the general manager, sat down with a lot of US journalists, right? I read stories by Henry Bushnell for Yahoo, Grant Wall for Sports Illustrated,
Paul
Tenorio for The Athletic, and that they had varying takes on them, but most of the same quotes, which isn't a bad thing. I'm saying there's a clear message that Earnie Stewart got across, including a list of stuff about how this is progressing. So should we get to it? Should we share what's happening?
Let's do. Because, first of all, I know I've begun slightly pessimistic.
Yeah.
I'll swing it back around and say, so far, a lot of the quotes that have, not the quotes, but the way it's been covered have been the coaching search is dragging on. It is still going on. It's still unanswered. They haven't. And it's like, to be fair, Earnie Stewart has been on the job for like a month.
Yeah.
So it's not like, I understand why it feels like it's dragging on because it's been a year since Trinidad, but they really only started to look maybe like a week or two ago. And I know that won't make people happy, but that is the reality.
So Earnie Stewart's fault.
Dragging on is a bit unfair.
I agree. Okay, so first of all, Earnie Stewart did name a timeline. He said there will be a new US men's national team head coach before the end of the year, so before the end of 2018. That makes sense. Dave Sarakin's contract goes to the end of 2018. He also said maybe before the November friendlies.
Yes.
So the US plays Peru and Colombia in October, plays England and Italy away, I think both away, in November.
It's almost like it's dependent on whether or not teams make it far in MLS playoffs.
Man, you are a cynic today, Taylor Rockwell.
How is that cynical? Isn't that basically what that means? If he says definitely by the end of the year, but maybe in November, that feels like if the teams don't go far and they're available, then maybe we'll come calling for that coach.
I honestly hadn't thought of it that way, but that makes a lot of sense. Let's go through what else was on the list of criteria that Earnie Stewart let be known. Must speak English.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get why that's important. It still feels weird. It feels slightly like not trying to troll, but like it feels one step removed from like Irish need not apply. like English only feels very harsh up front. It's like Frank Reynolds has the speak English sign at Patty's Pub and has to be persuaded to take it down.
Yep.
We're still going with the must speak English approach.
It does seem, I think maybe it was a misstep by Earnie Stewart, because I think we assumed that the US coach is going to speak English, right? Saying must speak English and then not saying, say, must speak Spanish, it feels a little bit like accidentally not inclusive.
Yeah. I mean, I do get it, because like there have been problems historically with a coach who doesn't speak the language. Problems with Sven-Goran Eriksson in Mexico, though language was not the first of those problems. Fabio Capello had language barrier issues. So I think
some of them were fake language barrier issues.
Well, there is that. Yes,
Fabio pretending not to speak English. But
sure.
I get it.
I mean, and many other ones aside from those two that come to mind most readily. So I understand why they would do that. It just feels like that's a strange way to begin, as opposed to like, we want a coach who plays attacking soccer.
Was there subtext of like, don't expect it to be Tata Martino, because we know that his English is not as great as his Spanish?
I mean, I don't know. That's a great question, because like he does speak English. So the question is, does he need to speak English as a primary language? Like, I don't know where we're going with that one.
What if he speaks Scottish?
That sort of counts.
Because there was a photo of David Moyes, formerly of Everton and Manchester United and Real Sociedad, I believe.
Yes.
David Moyes on the train.
Sunderland in there too.
Going to,
West Ham also.
Save West Ham from relegation.
Sure.
On the train from New York City, on the train from New York to New Jersey to MetLife.
Yeah.
He went to the game.
Yes.
Do we read anything into that?
No.
Is David Moyes just on holiday watching a game? Is David Moyes there for some sort of informal meeting?
I say no, but I'll say this. It's strange to me the way he got to that game because it was like,
Why?
I believe it was like on a train.
It was New Jersey Transit.
And so if it were the case that like maybe you can make an argument that he's like flying under the radar, but if he were there as a coaching candidate potentially, it feels like he would have been in a box somewhere with U.S. Soccer, had a private car, that sort of thing.
Yeah, he might have maybe gone in a black car with tinted windows. If it did have that sort of subterfuge to it.
What it did make me wonder is if he's there for maybe another job, like say a currently vacant or soon to be vacant MLS job. LA fired Siggy Schmidt today, I believe, or at least he stepped away from the club today.
We have to say the LA Galaxy now.
Excuse me, the LA Galaxy.
Yep.
So maybe that's a possibility.
He's on the wrong coast.
He is. And then the rumors persist. I was like, maybe he's there for Leggett, who wasn't there. And then the rumors continue to persist as they have for like a month or two now that he is expected to take over if Tata Martino leaves Atlanta.
I read that story in The Independent in the UK. Yeah.
And that seemed very strange to me. It didn't seem like it fit in terms of style, in terms of approach, in terms of man management. And then you made a very astute observation. Maybe that came from wherever you read it.
I just repeated it from The Independent.
Yeah.
Apparently, Carlos Bocanegra, who is the technical director or director of soccer at Atlanta, thinks very highly of David Moyes. Tim Howard and Landon Donovan, who have played for David Moyes, think very highly of him. So there is a sort of indirect Atlanta connection to David Moyes.
The one thing I didn't get is how do Donovan and Howard factor into that?
Because they played for Everton.
Yeah, but why would Atlanta care about the opinions of Landon Donovan
I think
and Tim Howard?
Carlos Bocanegra is probably tight with Howard and Donovan because they are the same generation of US player. So that might be how that snakes its way through.
Yes. So I mean, it's possible. Anything is possible. I would be surprised if it's David Moyes right now. I still have an idea of who I think it will be, and I don't
for
think
US coach.
Yes, and I don't think it's David Moyes, but you never know these things.
Who do you think it will be?
I think it will be Greg Berhalter.
We have been hearing that a lot, right? Maybe. I wonder if some people know it's very likely to be Greg Berhalter, but they just aren't allowed to say for sure. Or people keep referring to him as the front runner.
Yeah.
But there's no one racing, so how do we know he's the front runner?
But probably because he gets mentioned in most of the conversations as a likely candidate. At a certain point, if you do, I don't know if the Venn diagram is the right approach, but basically if you do process of elimination, the person who's mentioned most commonly for the longest period of time often rises to the top in terms of expected appointments.
Yeah.
And if you look at it, you can do that sort of scratch a name off, scratch a name off, scratch a name off, and with a couple names. Because if it is going to be a new coach, they more or less confirmed that it will not be Dave Sarachan at this point. So you can you can remove Dave Sarachan. I don't think it's going to be a repeat person. Basically, I don't think it's going to be Bob Bradley because I don't think you reappoint somebody that hasn't worked previously. So you can kind of go through the list and remove a bunch of names, and you end up with maybe three, all of whom are from Major League Soccer.
Who are your other two then?
I mean, maybe four, because I think Tata Martino is still in the realm of possibility for me. I think Greg Vanny is in there. I think Peter Vermees, and then I think Greg Berhalter. Okay. But those are probably the four that make most sense to me.
Okay. Should we go through the rest?
And to clarify, I'm not saying any of those are the ones I necessarily want. Those are just the four that, given the way they've gone about talking about it, seem like they're in contention.
I'm tentatively good with a Greg Berhalter appointment because it feels very American, bit of European experience, knows what he's doing. I think I like his style with Columbus Crew. I think more about that as it gets closer.
I was just going to add the one thing that I keep hearing about Greg Berhalter, the kind of refrain that seems kind of consistent regardless of where I see it, is that he finds a way to win. He takes the parts that he has, he puts them together and gets a result. And a lot of people
is that part of the PR campaign there?
It feels like it maybe possibly is. That it sort of is like, here's a guy who can take these pieces in a bad situation and make them work. That sounds like something U.S. soccer is in desperate need of.
Plus, if he joins the U.S., he'll be joining a team that's moving city every game.
Hey, there you go.
Because that is an element to it, right? He may not, if Crew do the unthinkable and ruin soccer forever.
You said do.
It would be doo-doo if they did.
Yeah.
I think it would be, if I was Greg Berhalter, I'd be like, I don't want any part of that. This is a good time for me to leave. I also saw a Taylor Twellman video segment this morning suggesting that maybe the LA Galaxy job might be a destination for Greg Berhalter.
There you go. Yeah, so I mean, there's lots of possibilities.
Twellman said it with that twinkle in his eye that was sort of like, Berhalter's going to have a big decision soon.
Yeah.
Meaning, does he choose Galaxy or U.S. national team?
Yeah. I mean, and with that in mind, the other thing that I think is fueling a lot of these rumors is Earnie Stewart. I think it was the Tenorio article is where I read it, basically saying that there's a chance they might only interview one candidate.
Yes.
That his approach, correct me if I'm paraphrasing this wrong, because I very well may be, but the way I read it was, or the way I remember it, was sort of like his approach is to identify the one candidate he thinks makes the most sense, he being Earnie Stewart, then have long conversations with that person as sort of a part of an interview to see if it continues to make sense, or if they like split in different areas and then maybe suddenly it doesn't make as much sense, then you revisit the situation.
I think that's not inaccurate, but I think it's important to think of the context in which he said that, which was he was deliberately juxtaposing doing that to interviewing like 15 different people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like he says, I don't want to have loads of interviews, candidates, like people lined up out the door, like it's a weird casting call type thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where everyone looks slightly the same and dressed the same in the hallway. He doesn't want to do that. I think by the time it's an interview stage, it's someone who is very likely to be getting the job, right? And I think that was also somewhat a reaction to the idea that Osorio, before taking the Paraguay job, had not been interviewed by US Soccer.
Yes.
Yeah?
Okay. That makes sense.
A couple of things. Earnie Stewart let it be known that CONCACAF knowledge would be preferred, but not necessarily required, which is an interesting phrasing. Looking for a coach that is detailed, a coach that has a we mentality, which I think that just means someone who wants to put a team together.
I was like, maybe it is David Moyes. like I assumed you meant we as an adjective. Like, I only want short players.
We're just going to say we just need a wee bit of World Cup qualification.
Exactly. See, there you go.
Someone who's a people manager. I think they are like hinting at Greg Berhalter.
I genuinely was confused by that for a moment.
And needs to be based in Chicago. We haven't talked about this on the show, right? And I read that Stewart said he wants the head coach to be based in Chicago because Earnie Stewart has relocated to Chicago, where US Soccer House is, where essentially they can work on the problem of the US men's national team together.
And I think that rules out a lot of people. I really do.
Because they won't want to move to Chicago.
Yeah, basically. I mean,
buy a coat, buy a hat.
Yeah, it's not that. It's like, it's not a Carlos Queiroz like has to live in Iran or somebody has to live in Saudi Arabia sort of situation. Was that Bert van Marwijk who was living in the Netherlands, I believe.
Yep.
If you're basically telling a person you can no longer live where you want to live, you have to live in Chicago. Chicago is a wonderful city. I would happily live there, but
I nearly moved there. I love it.
See, but if you are Tata Martino, who wants to be able to maybe live in Argentina or live in South America somewhere or live in Europe or whomever comes in, David Moyes, maybe he wants to stay in England but come back over for 6 months out of the year. Like, I do think it removes some people that might have been candidates because you're basically telling them you have to live here, you have to be here all the time. I don't know if that appeals to some people, but I'll add this. The people that it doesn't appeal to, I'm not sure I want them to take the job. So there you go.
To me, it also speaks more about how in-house and collaborative they see this being, right? It can't be just Jurgen Klinsmann sitting in California while US Soccer is in Chicago. It's got to be like, hey, you come into not like 9 to 5 every day, but it means you can come into the office. Earnie Stewart's like involved in planning what's going on with the team, and you know what I mean? It's a more collaborative process.
Yeah, and I think it probably also then forces the manager or coach to sort of explain through some of the thought process. It's not Jurgen Klinsmann saying, yeah, we're calling in these 8 people, and US Soccer having no real idea of what's going on. It also probably helps you coordinate a little bit better. If I'm looking at this from a positive standpoint, it lets like the general manager and technical directors and youth directors and everybody else sort of come together and say like, oh, we need Jonathan Gonzalez hasn't been capped yet. We should probably get him in there so you don't have players kind of falling through the cracks.
More on that
because
later.
You've got people all over the place.
Yes, no, I think that's true. We may see maybe rosters get announced earlier because the groundwork to contact players and get travel arranged and all that might be done sooner. Maybe. That's the optimistic version of this.
Yeah,
right?
It was. I think Earnie Stewart could win over everybody though if he said rosters are announced sooner, but also accurate game times are announced immediately.
I mean, let's not expect too much of the man.
No.
Let's not expect too much. Speaking of, before we move on, I do want to talk about also Earnie Stewart's authority. It's been oft debated that we thought he would just come in and be like, I'm the man that picks the coach. Then it was revealed that like he doesn't really have final decision. Final decision is with, say, Dan Flynn, CEO of US Soccer. But I think I'm coming to terms with the idea that that's okay. It's more like Earnie Stewart does the groundwork, along with Nico Romain and Ryan Mooney are his guys that are helping him in this search. And then Earnie Stewart makes a recommendation to the US Soccer, to Dan Flynn, and then it's very unlikely they overturn it unless, say, the person they recommend wants some crazy contract, right?
Yeah.
Like, say if it is Greg Berhalter, but he wants a 10-year contract for $10 million a year, it can't. Then Earnie Stewart is not involved in that wage negotiation. That's more of a Dan Flynn thing.
Yeah,
right?
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so. Do you? I don't know how to phrase this better than the way I'm going to, but like, Does it concern you at all that it seems like it's sort of either deliberately or not deliberately vague what Earnie Stewart's actual job requirements and titles are? Because I saw the pregame interview with him where he was asked that, and he kind of danced around it. Not even danced around it. It's not like he was being evasive.
Where people said he wasn't quick on his feet.
Yeah. That was like in response to a lot of the questions were sort of, I think you could see him be like, whoa, didn't see that one coming.
Yeah.
But it feels strange to me that like you kind of can't say like, oh, he's doing this and he's doing this and he's doing this and that's that. Mm-hmm. It feels like it's a lot of overlap and there's a lot of areas where he's involved, but Dan Flynn is involved, but then sometimes it's Carlos Cordero, but then sometimes it's Tab Ramos, and it feels like maybe his job is kind of to bring together disparate opinion and find consensus.
I think that's true, but I also think that's part of just implementing a new structure. Is that maybe they're feeling it out as they go rather than saying what the structure is and then realizing that certain parts of it don't work. So I think I'm okay with them feeling that out. And, in a few months, maybe we'll understand how involved Earnie Stewart is.
You're right. Because I'm seeing it from the perspective.
Does he sit down with the head coach and they pick the roster together?
Yeah.
That might be too far.
But
is he like a sounding board for the coach and he can just give opinions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you're right. Because I'm seeing it from the perspective of like, I like the idea of them being like, this is exactly what we need. This is exactly the role. We want you to function within that role. And that makes more sense to me. But then you're absolutely right that as soon as you state hard and fast, like facts, then if you change those, you have that like kind of baseboard to then be like, wait a minute, you said he was doing this and now he's not doing this.
Yep.
So what's wrong? And then there's more awareness that things have changed or something isn't working. So you're right. Maybe keeping it vague makes more sense right now.
All right.
Even if I don't like it. I get why they have to do it.
And so we can expect more news and rumors and little interviews in the months leading up to the end of the year.
Jose Mourinho to U.S. national team confirmed.
Wouldn't be the worst thing.
It would be the worst thing.
It would be like he's following you wherever you go.
There's no way he's living in Chicago. It took him a while to even move to Manchester.
Too many things to trip over.
Yes.
All right, before we move on and talk USA, Mexico, today's show is sponsored by Blue Apron. Blue Apron is the meal delivery service. The roster is already picked for you, and the tactical instructions come in the box.
That's well done, my friend. I didn't order it this time in time for the weekend, which would be nice because we theoretically have a hurricane coming or a light drizzle. We'll see what happens.
We'll see.
But I do like the idea of having Blue Apron.
That's one of the recipe instructions with olive oil, by the way.
Oh, yeah? That's it? A light drizzle?
No, hurricane.
Oh, hurricane. All right. That's more drench that sucker. I do like the idea of having it for like inclement weather so you don't have to venture out. But then I also have that fear of in Virginia power goes out pretty easily. And then suddenly it's like, we got to make them all right now.
Well, the good news is the refrigerated box that it comes in.
That's true.
We haven't planned this, but genuinely, sometimes I keep it in there maybe longer than is advised, but it stays cold. It's got those nice refrigerated packs. I don't even know what they are.
You got that big block of ice in there. That's, I'm assuming some sort of...
Didn't we call it super ice?
Sure. If we didn't, then we are now.
They keep it in the super ice.
They do.
So this fresh, seasonally inspired ingredients, and you can cook incredible meals in as little as 20 minutes. And it does say on the recipe card how long each meal takes to cook.
I also appreciate that, like, I feel like seasonally inspired can fall into the wrong categories almost. Like I was looking at the beer aisle yesterday and I was like, it is September and it's 98 degrees. We can hold off on the Oktoberfest, guys. Like we don't quite need those quite yet.
Yeah.
But I like the Blue Apron. They're not just going straight into like fall, like really hearty recipes. Like it's still very much summer, even if, what societal norms say it's not. So I like that they're sort of easing into fall as opposed to going straight into like eat a beef stew.
You may have noticed I wore white to an event we went to this
past weekend. You wore a white
weekend.
undershirt. Get out of here.
I was brave but not brave enough.
What?
Our listeners can check out this week's menu and get your first 3 meals for free if you go to blueapron.com/TSS. That's blueapron.com/TSS to get your first 3 meals for free.
Blue Apron? A better way to cook.
I was going to set you up to say it.
I know you were, and I didn't even want to hear it.
You said it very nicely.
To say it. Thank you, my friend.
That's why you were the only candidate for interview.
There we go. That makes sense. All right. So before we talk about U.S. soccer, again, let's talk about Mexico, shall we?
Okay, yes, because that is our opponent Tuesday night. So we had a look at Mexico's game against Uruguay. They lost 4-1.
They sure did.
With Tuca Ferretti is the interim coach for Mexico. They're in a weirdly similar... This is where we should start. Mexico in a somewhat similar situation.
Somewhat.
Right? They qualified for the World Cup. They didn't get to that 5th game that they always wanted. So the World Cup was not a huge success, but not a huge failure. But it seems to me that the roster that they selected for Uruguay was full of a lot of younger, up-and-coming players. So they're doing their refresh just as much as the US is,
yes.
right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that makes this game more level footing than the Brazil game.
Yeah,
which is
100%.
basically Brazil's first choice roster.
I mean, if you look at who is not there, both in terms of who wasn't called up originally, but then also they've had a lot of players leave before this game.
7 players after the Uruguay game have gone back to their clubs.
Like it is not nearly as terrifying a Mexico team as I was expecting to see.
That's fair, yeah.
Yeah. So I think, yes, to your point, it's similar situations. It's interim managers, one who's been there, one who has been there before, is what I'm going to say. Sarakin versus Tuca Ferretti.
Yeah.
But it's also...
He's the always interim manager. He's going to end up being the longest serving Mexico coach of all time, but just on an interim basis.
Unless they get him permanently. Yeah. I think they're going to have to make him that sort of offer that you mentioned with Greg Berhalter to find a way to lure him out of club coaching. But for now, he's there as the interim. He's kind of going to do what he does, which is kind of experiment and do what he wants to do without really having many repercussions, because what's the worst that happens? He doesn't get the full-time gig.
Let's think about this then. What this US-Mexico game, with neither team at full strength, and, for example, players from the Uruguay game dropping out, how serious is this game? When we get to Tuesday night, do you think the teams will suddenly be like, oh, it's USA-Mexico, let's go for it? Or are we in danger of a sort of non-event USA-Mexico game?
I don't think that's possible.
I don't either. I'm glad you said that, but you're normally my cynical sounding board for that type of stuff.
No, I mean, I think the closest we've ever come to a US-Mexico game that didn't matter was the one in the Alamo Dome, where the field was literally just visibly coming up in places, and it was not very good.
But that was
footing.
the reason, right?
Yes, that was the reason. Here, I mean, Tuca Ferretti is the one who won the CONCACAF Cup way back when, so he does have a good record against the US. Maybe he wants to keep that going.
The beginning of Klinsmann's unraveling.
Yep. Yeah. So, you could maybe make that argument that he's in there, he wants to keep that record alive, and he wants to be the manager who gets results against the United States. You could also make the argument that he is doing, as you said, the rebuilding process of bringing in younger players. I believe right now almost all of them are domestic-based Liga MX players. You've got Jonathan Dos Santos, who is from the Galaxy. You've got, I think, 2 more from Spain, although they may have left as well, 1 from Spain, 1 from elsewhere. So you've got them spread out a little bit, but for the most part, it's a young domestic team.
Yep.
So I don't know if it's going to be that much of a barn burner as we've seen in the past when you have a full-strength Mexico team, but it's still USA-Mexico.
So maybe let's do like this. For people, for the big names that people know, let's list who's missing. From the original roster, there was no Chicharito.
No.
There was no Tecatito.
No.
There was no Andres Guardado.
There was not.
There was no Hector Herrera.
There was not.
There's definitely no Rafa Marquez.
You are still correct.
Lots of other players as well that I haven't named were missing. So already they were calling up younger players to give those guys a chance. But since the
younger players and also Memo Ochoa.
Since the Uruguay game, which they lost 4-1, we can talk a second about that maybe. They have lost Chucky Lozano, who was arguably their best player.
Yes,
right?
100%.
He's gone back to PSV. Eric Gutierrez, central midfielder, also gone back to PSV. Ochoa, the senior goalkeeper, has gone back to his club. I've forgotten who he plays for, but he is no longer
Standard
with them.
Liège.
And then today, they announced that Raul Jimenez is going back to Wolves. So well done, Wolves, weakening Mexico. That's an interesting loss I want to talk about because I think it changes their game plan.
I agree.
A little bit. And then there are a few more whose names...
Orbelin Pineda, and then Rodolfo Pizarro and Carlos Salcedo. Carlos Salcedo did not play against Uruguay, so maybe they brought him in just to see what his level was, what his status was, and then was sent home.
So... who are the youngsters we expect to take the field against the United States?
Yeah, I mean, it is strange, right? Because it's going to be a lot of new names, but you should still be afraid of those new names.
Because they're really good, right?
Yeah, one who's...
a lot of them in the scouting network, let's put it that way.
Yeah, one who I don't think is, but maybe should be. He started against Uruguay. I expect him to start against the United States. Is Alan Pulido. He's wearing the number 10. Started as an attacking midfielder.
Kind of. I saw him play half striker, half dropping in. Yeah, Mexico played like a 4-4-2, but Pulido would sometimes drop and make it a 4-2-3-1.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah? Yes, and so I don't think he'll do that role again. I think
there's no Jimenez, right? Exactly. There's no target man to be up there.
Yeah, so I think he will end up being more of your central forward in maybe a 4-3-3, maybe a 4-2-3-1, maybe a 4-4-2. We don't really know, but a back four is what I'm guessing. And then I'm guessing that means Roberto Alvarado, who's another young, promising player that people are very excited to see.
Chivas, right?
He subbed on. We expect more minutes from him in this game. So that would be maybe your sort of number 10, number 9 for this game.
That makes sense. For me, I will be looking for the wingers because Mexico just often have a lot of, a surfeit of attacking wingers, right?
Good word.
Oversupply of attacking wingers.
And then you dumped it down for me.
The new names are Diego Lainez, who plays, I believe, for Club America.
And I want to clarify, if you don't know that player, Daryl pronounced it properly. 1L.
Yes,
1L.
thank you.
The first time you said that on the phone, I was like, that can't be right.
I'd watched. So he came on.
Yeah.
I'd watched some highlights of him. So I'd heard some Univision.
I see.
Announcers pronounce it correctly. Univision pronouncers, they were for me.
Yeah, of course.
So Diego Lainez could play right wing or left wing. Left-footed, has that skill where he sort of sways left and right, and you don't know which way he's going to go. He's only 18 years old, but he has a lot about him.
Yes.
If he's up against, say, Anthony Robinson, it's not quite the same test as Douglas Costa, but it's definitely an attacking test.
Yeah.
On the other wing, I'll be looking for Eric Aguirre of Pachuca, who I think is someone we've seen before. He's a right-footed player who likes to play on the left wing and burn you with some in-swinging crosses.
Yes.
So look out for that as well.
Yeah. I mean, no matter what, it's going to be pacey, creative players out wide causing problems. But I think the difference that you alluded to is that with no Raul Jimenez, you don't have the physical central striker. At least we don't think they will. You could have Zaldivar starting up there. Maybe it's Alvarado starting up there.
Even he's an attacking midfielder / winger.
Yeah,
right?
but you don't have that like proven big number 9 target man, poacher, whatever. So I do think that means it's going to be a more fluid, fast attack for Mexico.
Yeah, because against Uruguay, they were. They lost 4-1, but they did have moments where they were getting it wide. Midfielders would stay deep, and those wingers would swing crosses in. You're not going to be doing that for 5'8" Alan Pulido, right? It's going to be a different look. And I think those inverted wingers, if it's Lainez and Aguirre, I'm getting excited about the Mexico team now.
I hear that.
That lets you get them closer in, and they do more like an Arjen Robben type thing rather than going wide and crossing in. They're dribbling towards goal and combining.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to look out for.
It is, and I would say what we can
like Brazil, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. But I would say, like, if you look what Uruguay did against Mexico, we are not Uruguay, don't get me wrong, but it really was just the resolute back four that we've come to expect from Uruguay. That was it. Like, it was just very problematic. Outside of some set pieces, the biggest chances for Mexico came from shots from distance after a lot of like kind of build up around the box. But it wasn't even patient build up. It wasn't moving it around. It was sort of they had numbers there, and it was a lot of like frantic. I'll just take a shot and try to make something happen. It felt much more stressful than it did. We're in control. We're going to build up a little bit, and it feels like if the U.S. can frustrate them defensively, then maybe it's that same vibe again.
And Uruguay hit them on the counter, right? And then someone like Suarez was basically being more experienced and outthinking a lot of Mexican players, especially the young left centre back. I can't remember his name, but
Angulo.
Yes, Jesus Angulo. I believe Suarez like snuck behind him for the third goal and then drew the penalty kick. Yeah, and may even have Rabona'd and fooled him again on the.
You are correct.
The third or fourth goal. So it was definitely a lesson for that guy.
It did remind me of a lot of our criticisms of not criticisms, but like of what Brazil did to the U.S., where it was Luis Suarez just kept finding those little pockets all over the place, regularly inside the opposition penalty area. He would just find himself 5 yards open because I say would find himself, but it's because he made the effort to get there, to just be on the end of crosses, to be in the right position. So if we can have, like, again, we don't have anybody close to Luis Suarez, at least not on this current roster, or just generally. But I feel like if you can get a little bit of that mobility in the attack and just some numbers in the box, maybe a bit more aggressively, I think you could have some opportunities there.
Okay, we'll talk about the US in a second, but first, maybe a good...
I don't want to talk about this.
Jonathan Gonzalez.
Yeah.
So Jonathan Gonzalez came on at half-time for Mexico, I think, in the game against Uruguay. I would argue with Eric Gutierrez leaving, with Orbin Pineda leaving, that this is Jonathan Gonzalez's game to start.
It's possible. The thing that I would say is you had Eric Gutierrez. You said he's gone. Guzman came in for Gutierrez in their last game. Victor Guzman came in. He's a more attacking central midfielder. So that will be the indicator to me as to how Mexico are approaching this. If it's Guzman and, say, Jonathan Dos Santos, then I think that means, Mexico are really going for this. They want to be on the front foot. They're putting in an attacking midfielder. If you see Jonathan Gonzalez in there, then maybe that means they're going to keep those two midfielders. Maybe it's Gonzalez and Dos Santos starting together.
Can I make a guess?
Sure.
Midfield three, Gonzalez, Dos Santos, and Guzman.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's my guess at a midfield three. And maybe Alvarado doesn't start.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, that's possible. But either way, so you're saying basically you feel strongly that we're going to see Jonathan Gonzalez in this game.
I mean, I think he'll start, but he'll definitely play at some point just because their numbers are so reduced, right? They're 24 and they've lost 7. That gives you 17. So they can't even fill the bench.
That's some numbers.
Yeah. And there's going to be, if you were the Mexico coach, you would definitely want to sort of send Gonzalez out against the United States, right? Almost just to prove a point. It's part of the rivalry for them to say, hey, we got this kid and you didn't.
I guess so. I mean, that I don't know if they care as much. is my honest answer to that. Like, I don't know if Tuca Ferretti is like, haha, I'll stick it to them.
Yeah.
And if he is, there could also be the argument that he's like, I don't want to put him in a position where he looks bad, and then everyone's like, oh, see, we didn't miss anything.
So we've taken our eye off Gonzalez a little bit when he when he chose Mexico, so he's no longer eligible at all ever for the US men's national team.
At all ever. That's the official.
Because he can't switch back, right? So, but apparently he's been holding his place at Monterrey and doing really well. Doing what he does best, right, which is to play the defensive midfielder and be rapid and like get in people's faces, win the ball back, and then get the attack moving again. I would argue he is still, for me, he would have been the ideal person to play that number 6 role in our most recent friendlies. I had my dream midfield of Gonzalez, McKennie, Adams. Obviously, that can't happen now. Here's my weird feeling about this. I want Jonathan Gonzalez to have a really good game and remind people of what the US missed out on. And by people, I don't mean fans, I mean US soccer. Because I don't think they fully realise what a mistake they made. Do you remember when we...
No, you're right.
We interviewed Tab Ramos on stage and we sort of made the case that, hey, this is a big deal to lose Gonzalez. And he was kind of like... I mean, he was nice, right? Tab Ramos was a great guy to talk to, but he very much like, yeah, we'll see. We'll see how good he is.
I mean, I think I'm
convinced he's going to be great.
Yeah. I mean, I think you have to do that in that situation. You can't be like, yep, we made a horrible mistake.
I see. Yeah, that's fair.
Can I have my job still, please? So, I mean, it makes sense to me why you wouldn't want to concede that point. I'm with you. I would like him to have a good game. I would like the United States to still get the results.
Yeah.
But I'm with you that if he looks good, it's a good reminder of, look, this is the type of player we could have had that could be helping us for years to come. So maybe we focus a little bit more on these types of things.
Yes, maybe make a better case to dual nationals and sort of more Hispanic outreach in general from US soccer. I'm basically saying we can use the Gonzalez example as motivation for US soccer to do better. And him having a good game against the US could be good for the US in the long run.
Yes. Do you feel like we're unintentionally set up for, and I hope it doesn't end the same way, but like Keaton Parks looks a lot like Ivan Drago from Rocky IV, is all I'm saying. And like Jonathan Gonzalez is like, scrappy, had connections to America. Like it does feel like there is going to be a day where those two are face to face with each other, and it's just going to be a little bit like Rocky IV. Well,
it won't be Tuesday because Keaton Park's not on the US roster, but that could be in our future.
Yeah, I think
CONCACAF Nations League 2019.
Yeah, and also Creed 2, I believe that's the central plot is Ivan.
Creed 2.
Yeah, the Michael B. Jordan movie. Yeah, he's fighting Ivan Drago's son.
Wow, really?
Yes.
That's the plot?
Yes.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, that's the way to put it.
I would watch that. All right, have we talked enough about Mexico?
I believe we have.
Yeah, okay.
And Ivan Drago.
The final thing I'll say, though, is...
He will break you.
Because it's a young, sort of scrappy, pacey, looking to prove themselves, inexperienced Mexico team... I think this actually sets up to be a really good game because the US is in a similar situation. They both just suffered defeats at the hands of superior South American teams. Yeah. This is all set up, I think, for possibly some sort of end-to-end all-action encounter with pace everywhere.
And if you are Dave Sarakin...
Except for Weston McKennie, and pace everywhere.
Yeah. If you are Dave Sarakin, though, shots fired, at this point you're probably not getting the job, but... If you are able to oversee this slight,
no.
Okay. No. Hold on before you say don't,
all right.
Mr. Cynical. No, all I'm saying is that if you are Dave Sarakin and you are probably not getting the U.S. national team job, it does resonate if you're the one to give a bunch of youngsters their caps, kind of bring them out a little bit more of optimism if we're looking at the positive way of approaching this. And if you get that result against Mexico, he's a coach who got a result against Mexico.
Yeah.
Maybe that makes him look more attractive to possible head coaching opportunities.
I see. I mean, I think he's going to want to beat
in
Mexico
other places, is what I'm saying.
No matter what.
Oh no, he absolutely will. But I'm just saying, if he can add that to the resume of hey, we continued on the tradition, then maybe he gets some looks that he wouldn't otherwise.
Okay, I'm interested in this. Why do you think Sarakin needs that extra motivation? Isn't it just I'm the US national team coach and I want to beat Mexico is enough to make that happen?
Yeah, but I think it still is in these types of games, in these relatively meaningless friendlies, you have to look for those extra things to I think motivate. And I do think for Dave Sarakin, who knows he is not going to get the permanent job, but right now has done a respectable job to kind of, obviously this won't be his last game because we expect him to be there in October, but for one of the results he's gotten to be a win over Mexico on U.S. soil, that carries a little bit of weight.
He's getting that U23 job anyway. All right, before we talk about what we want to see from the United States and possible lineups, today's show is sponsored by Simple Contacts. Simple Contacts, you can see clearly.
You're reading the copy, which means you've got them in.
I invented that.
Oh, okay. Can you see it clearly?
I'm hoping to see the US team clearly on Tuesday night.
All right, there you go.
Oh, you're saying I'm
sense.
wearing contacts? I actually
Yes.
am wearing contacts that I ordered from
There
Simple
we go.
Contacts.
You got there eventually.
I forgot that I normally wear glasses, right?
Uh-huh.
Today I'm wearing contacts, and I didn't realize that you would notice that. Of course.
Can we just talk about for a moment how you usually wear glasses, and yet at no point in a podcast have you ever dramatically removed your glasses and said, "My God"? Because I feel like that's the thing that you should have used by now, and you haven't.
I thought there's enough drama in my voice already.
All right, that's
yeah.
fair.
I feel like I've got your attention.
All right. Well, if you don't want to have to remove your glasses to say "My God," you could just wear contacts instead, and Simple Contacts is there to help you get those contacts.
It is the most convenient way to renew your contact lens prescription and reorder your brand of contacts from anywhere in minutes. It's vision care for the 21st century.
All right. What does that mean, Daryl Grove?
It means that if you want to renew your prescription or order some new contacts or both, you don't have to go to the office and sit down and wait and then see the person and then wait for that, do the paperwork. You just open the Simple Contacts app or you go to the Simple Contacts website. And if your prescription is current, you can just reorder your lenses right there. Then they come to your door. If your prescription has expired, you can do the vision test that they have in the app. I feel like every time we do this ad, I get excited about this part. I'm still amazed that this is a thing that works. The first time I did it, I put my phone, it says you've got to be 10 feet away. I put my phone up 10 feet away, click go, then it would like show the letters and you have to read the letters out with an eye covered.
I'm fascinated as to how you did 10 feet away, because I'm guessing you don't have a tape measure in your home.
Why would I not have a tape measure?
Because you hate DIY. You hate any sort of home improvement project.
You need a tape measure for when you're doing your tax deductions for how much home office you use.
Okay, there we go.
Also, my wife is much more savvy than me.
Gotcha.
So we have a tape measure.
So you did, and were you able to figure it out? Were you like, what's this foot thing?
How dare you? How dare you? I just did it in centimetres and then converted.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I didn't. 10 feet away, then you basically just take the vision test online. Then you get close and you have to put your eye up, down, left, right so that they can check for any redness or adverse reactions to your contacts. Then you just reorder. Your prescription is now current, and you can order your contact lenses.
Yep. Worth noting, that test that Joe just described is not a replacement for your periodic full eye health exam, but it is a good way to get that prescription so you can then get your contacts. I would recommend get your contacts as quickly as you can so you can watch the Mexico game. Probably won't be there in time for that one, but then the October friendlies, and then if those don't go well, then just don't renew and you can just watch the games, but they'll be blurry, so you can just see what you want to see.
The blurry friendlies.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm pretty sure we won that game. It's 5-0. Yeah, still, it's fine.
Like North Korean television.
Yeah.
So you can get $20 off your contact lenses if you go to simplecontacts.com/TSS20, simplecontacts.com/TSS20, or if you use the app or if you just go online, you can use the code TSS20, enter TSS20 at checkout, and you get $20 off your contact lenses.
And that promo code was Total Soccer Show?
TSS20. How dare you?
Thank you to Simple Contacts for sponsoring today's episode of the Total Soccer Show. Joe Grove, we've talked Earnie Stewart, we've talked Mexico. Let's talk some USA, shall we?
Let's talk some USA. Okay, so we lost to Brazil.
Yeah.
We lost 2-0. You and I spent a long time
We did.
diagramming and detailing how we lost 2-0.
Yep.
I'm interested in whether we try and do the same thing against Mexico or whether we try and do something different.
Yeah.
And the answer is we don't know quite, right?
No.
But we do have a quote from Saracen a little while back saying, we have two different systems we're going to try out for these two games.
All right, I'm going to throw this out there. I feel like you're putting a lot of stock into one quote that he threw out when John Brooks left. Like, right? Isn't that when that story came about? Was John Brooks is leaving?
It was around the same time, but it wasn't necessarily related.
Yeah, so
he didn't link it in that way.
Yeah, but it was in that same story about John Brooks leaving. All I'm trying to say is I feel like you've seen this one quote and you're choosing to see that as like, oh, he's got two like very specific systems.
Okay.
And it might just be like, yeah, we've got an attacking one and a defensive one. Or it might be, yeah, it's a 4-2-3-1, but then we've also got a 4-4-2. Like, I feel like you're presuming that it's a back five because they did that against France.
I actually wasn't going to say that. What I was going to say is, because I would have expected the back five against Brazil, because it would have made sense to try and hold off Brazil with the back five. I still say it would have, and we might have done better doing that. What I was going to suggest is that the two different systems might not look any different when you see them up on the screen before the game, but they might just have a different outlook to them.
Back five confirmed, then, basically.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Oh, no, I do. I'm just saying that now that we've said this, back five confirmed.
But
yeah,
it's
I'm with you.
It's still a possibility they try the back five, right?
It is.
But the system could have been... So there was the quote that we saw that Adam Bells from Scuffed transcribed a quote from the post-match conference where he said the plan against Brazil partly was that the wide midfielders, Areola and Green, would tuck in a little bit, and then the central midfielders could be released from midfield to attack. Yep. So that would for me, that means McKennie and Adams
could
then go join the attack. Clearly, that didn't work, so we didn't really have the ball for long enough. But that seems to me like maybe that was a Brazil plan. Maybe there's a different plan for Mexico. Maybe there's a plan where we actually get some attacking width against Mexico.
That'd be an actually nice thing.
Yeah, right?
Yes, and with that said, like, for me personally, it's a weird situation in which if you ask me 5 different times, what do you think we'll see in this game, I could give you 5 different answers, and I would be kind of okay with them. All of that is to say, I have some ideas about what the United States could do and what I would like them to do, but really, I don't care. Like, if they go back 4, if they go back 5, if they go 4-4-2, like, basically, it's a weird situation in which I don't have really strong opinions about that much when it comes to this team. I'm more so excited to see what they do and how they play. Okay. It sort of is blank slate for me at a time when we don't have a lot. There's not that pressure to, like, we've got to figure this situation out right now.
Look what our shape is and what our style is.
Exactly. It's just sort of like, all right, let's see what happens. I'm willing to give Dave Sarakin the benefit of the doubt because what other option do I have? So why not just say, like, sure, let's see what happens. And that way I'm not disappointed if it's a back 6.
That'd be one too many for me. Let's do it this way then.
Sure.
Maybe we'll try and pick a formation and an 11 towards the end of the show. But right now, maybe let's just think of the things we want to see from the US men's national team, regardless of what formation they're in.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think one thing that you said before we started recording that you, like, I had phrased this a bunch of different ways. I'm going to steal this one from you because you said it succinctly, is I don't want to see Bobby Wood by himself.
Yes.
That's number one. I don't want to see that anymore.
Not even when he's walking around the streets.
No, he always needs a buddy.
When he's up top.
He needs an accountability buddy.
Oh, he needs the buddy system.
Yeah.
Yes, I am with you. The 4-1-4-1 against Brazil definitely left Bobby Wood on his own too much. And the plan to get midfielders to join him, not enough. I want a strike partner for Bobby Wood. I think there's a chance we see that against Mexico. Question is, who do you want it to be?
Yeah, I really, again, this is where I go back to, like, I'm not sure I care.
So you don't care if it's Zardes or Novakovic or Tim Weah? Because those are basically your options, right?
No, not really. I mean, maybe it's, like, more attacking midfielders get in there, but I think I would prefer it be a striker. I think if you're going to try to play on the break against Mexico, it probably makes more sense for it to be Timothy Weah or Giassi Zardes. But it might also be Novakovic, and maybe he does the kind of like hold up, flick on for Bobby Wood to run onto, and we have that kind of Josie Giovinco relationship there.
Because we talked in the last show about Bobby Wood working really hard on his own up top, but then just, even if he would hold on to the ball for a second, no one come in to support him, and it's sort of a thankless job. And then weirdly, he doesn't get much out of it except a few bruises, and no one's happy with Bobby Wood afterwards, and we don't have any attacking threat. So might as well give him a partner.
And I think it especially makes sense against this particular Mexico team because the things that I saw in that Uruguay game, the things that looked kind of consistently to be on were Uruguay attacking at pace with numbers. I saw a lot of situations in which Uruguay would win the ball back, and because they were so aggressive playing forward, they had 5v3s and 5v4s pretty routinely. And that's because they didn't mess about, they didn't hoof it long, they played the ball into feet, forward lays it off, and then they're away, and they've got these kind of breaks. So what I would like to see with that in mind is the United States playing aggressively forward and getting numbers forward when it's on, not just kind of bombing forward every single time, but maybe picking your spots and then getting those numbers in there. So you don't have Bobby Wood running to the corner flag, ball over the top, and even if he settles it, then he's got nobody around him by like 30 yards. I don't want that anymore. I would like to see better combination play with numbers kind of streaming forward off the ball.
Okay, even if it's like Tyler Adams plays it into the feet of Bobby Wood and then runs off him. That would be nice to see.
I want to see the United States committed to getting numbers forward, to establishing the other thing I really want to see, sorry for continuing with this, but it all kind of links up, is the U.S. with better possession, or any possession at all, around Mexico's box. Like, I would like to see the United States just slow it down. This is the thing that we talked about in our Brazil review, that Brazil were patient, and that if that 1-2 wasn't on, Firmino would turn and he'd find another pass. It wasn't that, like, I got to play that 1-2 right now because it's pretty and it's on. Like, I'd like to see the United States not rush those passes and force stuff in there because it feels like they should. I'd rather see them slow it down a little bit once they get numbers forward and find their options and just establish a bit more possession than try to shoot as quickly as they can.
That goes to a thing I want to see
what
then,
you got?
Which is I want to see Weston McKennie tackle hard and tackle fast, but then slow it down and dictate the game. My feeling is that even though he was easily our best midfielder, Tyler Adams against Brazil, he's our best midfielder, but we attacked at his pace, right? It was Tyler Adams would go past a couple people, would try and get a 1-2 going, and would make progress, but never get all the way to the end line, or never get all the way to the goal, right? I would like our attack to. I still want to see Tyler Adams do some of that stuff, but I would like to see more of a controlled possession type thing. And I think Weston McKennie is the guy to do that.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And I think with what you just said there, I think it will also be a physical game. I think that was pretty obvious from Uruguay that Mexico were content to foul and content to be physical to try to knock them off their game a little bit. I'd expect that too. I'd expect a harsh tackle inside the first 5 or 10 minutes to just kind of like set the tone.
Here's the thing though, I think that suits Weston McKennie.
Yep.
I think he's someone who, for all his
I think he responds to a scrap.
Yes, for all his fun-loving, big smiley type thing, when it gets into it, he's ready to throw down, right? Not in a violent way, but in a I'm winning that ball kind of way. And I'm also, this goes to my thing of being slightly concerned about Weston McKennie's start to the season, right? I saw all 90 minutes of his first 2 games for Schalke. Yep. Schalke haven't done well, but Weston McKennie hasn't done well. Weston McKennie for the US against Brazil, maybe his worst game in a United States shirt. He's in a little bit of a dip in form. I think a fighting match against Mexico where he wins the fight but then slows it down and controls the game is exactly what he needs. It's what he's capable of and what he needs to get back in form.
Not to put you on the spot, but I'm going to put you on the spot with this. Is there a chance he doesn't play? Like, is there a chance that it's completely changed and like there's no Tyler Adams and there's no Weston McKennie?
Jeff Carlisle of ESPN quoted Dave Sarakin as saying there will be 4 to 6 changes from the 11 that started against Brazil. We should say the US news is John Brooks has gone back to Wolfsburg just to make sure he doesn't get injured. Paul Arriola has been recalled to DC United because they have a game coming up. So there's 2, but that means
Sebastian Lletget as well, but he didn't start.
Yeah, so that doesn't count. But so there's 2 out of possibly 4 or 6. There's another 2 to 4 players who will be changed.
So I had Brooks gone, as you mentioned. I had maybe another center back comes in because that is actually something I kind of don't want to see Matt Miazga at center back in this game. I know that's nothing against him. It's that I want it to be Brooks and Miazga, and I don't just want it to be like, okay, now we've got Miazga and this guy. Now we've got Miazga and this guy. I wouldn't mind seeing, especially because there are 3 other center backs there, I wouldn't mind seeing a different combination because why not?
And to remind people, it's Tim Parker, Aaron Long, and who's the
Cameron
third?
Carter-Vickers.
Cameron Carter-Vickers, yeah. I disagree with you. I would like to see Matt Miazga because I think he's the one that's not going to get injured across the future. Yeah. And also, Matt Miazga, with John Brooks gone, Matt Miazga is our best defender in terms of bringing the ball out of the back and making a pass into midfield or beyond. I'm not sure I trust any of the other players distribution-wise as much as I trust Matt Miazga.
I would agree with that. My concern is less about this game, though, and maybe that's why we're approaching it from different perspectives. But
it's fine.
I've kind of come around to the idea that one of the things the United States does, specifically with goalkeepers on both the men's and women's side, is it feels like we establish, okay, they're our number 1 now, and that's who it's going to be. And that's great, because then you have established number 1s, but it also doesn't mean that you've got lots of other options. So if that number 1 drops off for whatever reason, suddenly there's like a huge dip, and then you've got to figure it out from there. And I think we're kind of in that right now. That's going to be ironic when I say the other thing I'm about to say later on. But I think that can also happen with other positions. Center back comes to mind, is that I feel like if we're just hell-bent on getting Brooks and Miazga as our 2 starters, then if you're just playing them whenever you've got that opportunity, it feels like you're missing opportunities to give other youngsters opportunities to show, they can play the ball too. They can handle this type of pressure.
I'd agree with you if it had been Brooks and Miazga for the last 10 games.
That's true.
But I think we're not even close to a stage where we're sort of getting too familiar with our centre backs.
All right, fine. All right, but either way. So then if we don't go with that one, I would say that we're at least going to have 1 center back change.
Yeah. Are we picking a team now?
No, I'm just going to say, so then Ariel is not going to start. And I guess I kind of am then, so maybe I'll hold off on that for now. That's fine. But then in that mind, I will say, I guess this is still sort of picking the team. I do want to see Zach Steffen in goal again.
You do?
Yes.
I wouldn't be... Okay, I think I agree, because I just want to see more of him and more of him and more of him. But I wouldn't be surprised if, just for rotation purposes and everyone getting a game purposes, it's Alex Bono or Bill Hamid in this game.
Ethan Horvath?
Excuse me, Ethan Horvath. Sorry. Oh, Hamid didn't make it, did he?
Both of whom aren't starting for their clubs.
I know.
So I guess that's the thing for me is why... This is where what I said, I said it was kind of ironic given the point I'm about to make, but I also don't think you should just give people starts to give people caps.
I mean, I agree, but I'm just saying be prepared that might be what happens.
I will. But I wouldn't be surprised. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's one of the changes, but I also wouldn't be surprised if Zach Steffen is still in goal for this game.
All right. Let's get back on track with what we want to see kind of thing. Anything else that you want to see from this US team?
Yeah, I think this all kind of blends together with stuff I've said previously, but I want to see patterns of play in the attack. Because I think we talked about this a little bit, but
I settle for just an attack.
Yeah, true. But okay, with that in mind, I think when a thing becomes ubiquitous, you kind of stop seeing it for what it is. And so 4-2-3-1 is the formation that everybody plays. Not everybody, but you see played a lot nowadays. I feel like in a lot of ways it's replaced the 4-4-2 as the go-to formation of teams around the world. You obviously, not everybody's playing a 4-2-3-1, but I think it's very common. But I think it's also when it becomes that common, it's easy to overlook how hard it is to play that system. And it leaves you with scenarios where you've got 5 midfielders and then 1 forward 30 yards away. And I feel like you've got to find ways to solve that problem to make the attack work that much better. I don't think the United States have done that. So I would like to see if it is Bobby Wood by himself, or if it is a different attacking system. I just want to see the United States set up in a way where you can see patterns of play that facilitate an attack more so than Bobby Wood stands by himself and we just try to get the ball to his feet.
Yeah, I think, hopefully we'll see more of the ball in this game than we did against Brazil, and you'll see if the US has a plan of attack.
Yeah. I mean, so that's very much what I'd like to see is, like, if it is Bobby Wood by himself, do we have somebody immediately underneath him or running off of him to help just support him a little bit more? Because there were times in that Brazil game where it was him and then 30 yards. But even like a goal kick, like he didn't have anybody around him if he won that header to do anything with it.
Okay, one thing I would like to see, this may not be great for possession, but I would like to see someone running at someone.
Yeah.
Right? So I would like to see just some attacking players doing a Tim Weah thing and taking risks and running at people and putting Mexico on the back foot. I think we were scared to do that to Brazil. Tyler Adams did it a little bit. Tim Weah did it a little bit. I would like to see them given we talked about a possession game, and that is a smart way to keep hold of the ball. But just occasionally, if you're in a one-on-one situation, just go at it. I want to see a couple of players just go at it.
Well, I think that's especially smart because, as I said, I expect Mexico to be physical in this game. And if you draw that foul in the first couple minutes and then you go at that player again, you draw another foul, then you're looking at it becomes a pattern, and the referee then has to consider that, and then suddenly if there's contact at all 10 minutes later, that's probably going to be a free kick, whereas it wouldn't be if you haven't established that sort of relationship earlier. So I think I'm with you. I'd like to see a little bit of that 1v1, the kind of take-ons, a little bit more confidence on the ball, because I think it goes against what Mexico would like to see the U.S. do.
Yep. And to a similar thing, Brazil did this to us, right, with Douglas Costa just beating Anthony Robinson early on. I would like to keep an eye on Anthony Robinson's pursuit angles.
Yeah.
Because as we mentioned with the Mexico preview, he's going to be up against whoever it ends up being, if it's Elias Hernandez or Diego Lainez, one's 30, one's 18, doesn't matter. They're both very good at dribbling past you. I think it's still a tough test for Anthony Robinson, even though it's not Douglas Costa and Willian. It's still going to be a tough test. So I think it'll be really interesting to keep an eye on what Robinson does in terms of 1v1 defending.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And I want to see him win some battles, essentially.
All right.
Yeah. Same for Yedlin.
Yep.
That's another thing I want to see. Maybe I'm being too optimistic here. I want to see DeAndre Yedlin take better care of the ball.
Okay. I mean, hasn't that been a refrain of yours for 3 years now?
More like 5, but yes. But I don't know. Am I just being too optimistic to hope to see that?
I mean, no. I mean, you got to have hope, baby. But I think maybe you can look for one moment where ooh, maybe he didn't try to get forward with that one, or maybe that touch was a little bit better than it would have been a year or two ago.
Yeah.
You can look for those moments. I think you're still going to see DeAndre Yedlin take a heavy touch here and there, maybe have a wayward pass here and there as well.
All right. So it's just baked into the cake.
Kind of. And I know that sounds harsh, but I really do think that that's sort of the case. I think also he needs to... I know this is probably putting too much stock into trash talk, but so we talked a little bit about he made the joke about Neymar in the World Cup to the referee. Did you see Neymar's response?
Yeah, it was I don't even know who he is.
Yeah, basically. It was DeAndre Yedlin is a player I'm not even familiar with.
That may not be true. That may be just some very effective trash talk.
I mean, either way, it's very effective trash talk and sort of being you're not on my level. And if you're Yedlin, if he starts, you want a response to that to show hey, he deserves to be there. He deserves that call-up.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's a chance that Yedlin doesn't start, right? There's a chance it's, say, Eric Lehigh at right back?
Or maybe Shaq Moore.
Or Shaq Moore, yeah, definitely. It definitely could be,
Yep.
yeah.
Do you want to get into that a little bit then?
I guess I don't really have any other things I'm specifically looking for, except maybe the thing where Brazil would manage to drift between US players and be unmarked. If Mexico do that, I'll be very worried. I'm hoping for a US team that just does a better job of realizing when someone has got free by being between two players.
Yeah. Because I don't think Mexico did a great job dealing with it either, so I think they'll be looking to cement that one too.
Suarez is very good.
You're just going to see both teams marking each other all over the place all the time. All right, so this U.S. team, I think there's a chance I can see where I see all 6 of those changes being made, and then I can also easily see just 3 or 4 changes being made.
Okay.
So I did have it Brooks not starting, obviously. Ariola not starting. I don't think Julian Green starts again. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Timothy Weah or maybe somebody else out wide.
Yeah.
So those are 3 for me. I wouldn't be surprised if it's not DeAndre Yedlin, just to get another player in there, and that seems like something that might happen. But then again, I don't really know for sure. Might be another goalkeeper, might be another center back. That's kind of where I am with it, which means I do still have it being Will Trapp, Weston McKennie, Tyler Adams in the middle.
I'd like to see Kellyn Acosta start after what we saw from him after he came on against Brazil. I thought he looked really lively, really aggressive, and then pretty smart with the ball. Set pieces were the best that the US delivered all night. Do you remember the one where I think they would have been offside, but McKennie nearly got on the end of it? I think I would like to see Will Trapp not start.
Okay.
Tyler Adams play as the holding midfielder, the number 6, and then Kellyn Acosta and Weston McKennie in central midfield.
I understand why you want that. That feels like a Daryl thing more than a Dave Sarachan thing.
I mean, we weren't far off from that in the last 10 minutes of the Brazil game. We did get to see Tyler Adams as the holding midfielder for the last 10 minutes against Brazil. And he did do that thing that Tyler Adams does that's almost Jonathan Gonzalez-ish, where he just covers ground quickly and gets in people's faces. And then when he gets the ball, he is better at anyone else at just accelerating and making something happen. And I think we maybe are asking him to do that high up the field. I think we need to ask him to start it lower down so that US attacks can get going.
Except that then doesn't that go against what the U.S. have historically done with the number 6, which is keep them back, have them play between the center backs?
It does.
Right. So, again, that's where I'm going to. I feel like that's the thing that you want to see as opposed to Dave Sarachan being like, never mind, our number 6 is now an attacking midfielder.
Yeah. Well, I mean, But if I was picking the team, that's what would be happening.
So then if you're picking the team, you'd have Tyler Adams in there. Would you still have Weston McKennie?
Yes. Here's what I would do, actually. I think I would go with, this is going to be somewhat unpopular, but hear me out. I told you about this earlier, right? I would go with the 4-1-3-2 type shape that was very popular with Arena towards the end of his reign, but went horribly wrong against Trinidad. And I think the reason it went wrong against Trinidad is that the one was just Michael Bradley on his own, and the 3 ahead of him were all attacking midfielders, right? It was Pulisic central, Nagbe on the left, I believe, and Ariola on the right. And then there just wasn't enough solidity in the midfield. I think if we pulled that same shape with Adams, McKennie, Acosta, and then like maybe Delgado or Will Trapp if he starts at the defensive midfield. You've basically guys who are not all defensive midfielders, a lot of two-way midfielders in there. I think that's a high-energy, aggressive midfield, right? You have to sacrifice some wing play for that, right? We don't have any wingers there. But I think what you get in return is you can give Bobby Wood a strike partner.
And who would that be?
My preference would be Tim Weah. Bobby Wood and Tim Weah, I think, is the most fearsome duo you could put out there.
I think, given the playing time that's already happened, historically, Novakovic makes the most sense to come in and start in this game because he hasn't played yet. I don't see how he fits with what the United States have been trying to do.
Yeah.
He makes more sense as an impact sub or as a starter against a team where you expect to have a lot of the ball and you want a big man to look for but also play off of. I don't see how that fits against Mexico.
Novakovic?
Yeah, starting at least. But, I mean, he very well may do that. Then I'll be curious to see how he's utilized and how effectively he's utilized.
But I'd be happy with Bobby Wood and Tim Weah.
Yeah.
I think that offers a lot of threat, something that to worry Mexico. And also, Weah, I think, would be very good at drifting wide if he needs to or making those nice curve runs that he does inside. They both could, Wood and Weah could both drift wide and cause trouble, come central, cause trouble. Similar, Gyasi Zardes. If Bobby Wood is all beat up or tired, Gyasi Zardes, Tim Weah, that, to me, that's quite an exciting strike partnership as well.
I'd agree with that. I also think Timothy Weah is the player that, from what we saw in Brazil, is the one who's most likely to try stuff. He's the most likely to go at people in a 1v1 situations.
He's the new Deuce.
I mean, I'm sure he'd be fine with that title. I hope Clint Dempsey would be okay with that.
Yeah, so that's what I'd like to see is that 4-1-3-2. Maybe my centre-backs would be Miazga and Cameron Carter-Vickers. Yeah.
All right. And you want to see if maybe he can keep the ball at his feet too?
Yeah. Well, it's more about, for Cameron Carter-Vickers, I want him to not just panic and hit big direct balls that go straight to Mexico. I'd settle for seeing that.
I would be shocked if we don't see Aaron Long at some point in this game. I think we see him, maybe not as a starter, but I think he definitely gets his first cap.
I think that's fair.
So that's one other one. And then would you keep Stefan in goal or would you rotate Stefan out?
I would keep Stefan in goal. Yeah.
Okay.
But I could also see why you would want to start Horvath or Bono.
Yeah. All right. Is there a chance that we see what Sarachan talked about of okay, we wanted Weston McKennie and Tyler Adams to push forward and we wanted our wingers to come inside? Do you think there's a chance that they just kind of try to work on that and basically make that more effective in this game and kind of do the exact same thing?
Possibly, but who? Okay, so if we did that, let's say that's what's going to happen. The wide players would be not Areola because he's gone. It could be Julian Green again. It won't be Tim Weah because that's not what Tim Weah does when he's wide, right? He's more of an attacking wide player. So it would be Christian Roldan, I think is possible.
Maybe Tyler Adams, but then you want Tyler Adams getting forward with Weston McKennie.
Yeah, but it could be Kellen Acosta central and Adams wide, or vice versa.
Yeah.
So any of those combinations could happen. Yeah,
it's just it goes back to it's a weird roster. It's a strange roster because of the lack of creative attacking options.
Yep.
It feels like a team that's much more based on be defensive, sit deep, and then try to counter with pace through young attacking players.
That's why I would argue the 4-1-3-2 might be the way to go, because you can really clog the middle with players that cover a lot of ground, are nice and aggressive, and are capable of attacking. And if you've got no wingers anyway, then don't worry about it. Have your two strikers. Maybe ask the fullbacks to get involved a little bit as well. I'm into this.
The only thing that scares me about that is I don't think Mexico care if you clog the middle, because I think they're content to go down the wings and attack in the channels.
Well, it's not like everyone's clogged in the middle. You've still got, the right side of your three. The right side of the diamond almost can go to the right. The left side of the diamond can go to the left. I wouldn't necessarily be too worried about that, although I may be eating those words if our fullbacks are left one-on-one and getting dribble past all night.
I'll just say this. Let's just hope that that's not the instruction at the end of the team talk. It's like, and I don't think it'll be a problem. It should be okay. Get out there and win, guys.
So that game, once again, is Tuesday night.
Yep.
It is... I'm really confident about this. It's 7:30 Central in Nashville, so therefore it's 8:30 Eastern, right? 5:30 Pacific. Mountain time, I don't know. But that's what US Soccer says. So if they say 8:30 Eastern, it's really 9 o'clock-ish?
That seems very late for the East. So I feel like maybe we're like an 8:48
Okay.
kickoff.
I'd say check Andrew Das'
It's
timeline.
probably 9:04.
Check Henry Bushnell's Twitter timeline. Check CONCACAF. CONCACAF usually have the correct kickoff time. Check FIFA.
Yep.
Check everywhere except ussoccer.com. Right?
Yes.
So we'll be back that night. We'll have a quick take, hot take, and hopefully we'll have a longer review. And I'm genuinely, even with all the players missing, I'm excited for this game because it's US-Mexico, the next generation.
Yeah. Sure. I'm right there with you. No, I'm excited too. But I'm more excited to talk about all of the youngsters we have in the scouting network today.
They're all the
there
next
are
generation.
Many. Yes.
Yeah. So I'll get us started.
All right.
I know you've got to get out of here in like 5 minutes or so.
Yeah,
okay. So we will start
the dogs
with
will walk themselves.
a
It's
scouting. If they do, you're in trouble. We'll start
I
with,
really am.
Yeah. Scouting report from Nicholas Ahona, who is scouting Andy Sullivan, the 22-year-old American midfielder for the Washington Spirit. Nicholas says Andy captained the US U23's women's team to the Nordic tournament title with a 1-0 victory over Norway last week. I'll be honest, I did not know this was happening.
Nor did I.
Andy played every minute for the champs, which is what we're calling the U23s now, in the small tournament that included a win over Sweden and a tie with England.
Your face, England. We tied you. Michael Bate, scouting Tierna Davidson, 19-year-old American.
Michael Bate.
Oh, excuse me, Bate. Scouting Tierna Davidson, 19-year-old American defender for Stanford. Tierna Davidson had a good weekend for the U.S. national team, playing all 180 minutes in 2 games against Chile, where the U.S. women's national team won 3-0 and then 4-0. In the first game, Davidson got her first international goal, heading in a corner kick in the 8th minute. She also got an assist in the second game, heading a pass into the path of Tobin Heath for the second U.S. goal of the game. Davidson, who had not received a cap prior to 2018, leads the U.S. in minutes played this calendar year and has a goal and 2 assists in 12 appearances. Not bad.
Go on, Tierna Davidson. Yeah. Matt Crumry is scouting Sophia Smith, the 18-year-old American forward for Stanford.
Yeah.
Matt says
Stanford's doing all right.
In a classic example of the rich getting richer, Sophia has joined the Stanford women's soccer team for the 2018 season. After posting some decent numbers in an otherwise disappointing U20 World Cup campaign, Sophia has begun her college career by starting 3 games with 1 goal and 2 assists, including assisting on the game-winning goal in the 94th minute against the University of Minnesota. But most importantly, Matt concludes in all caps, Chloe, you told your father that you would do these scouting reports. You need to do the next one. I will say, we have also had, I won't name them, we've had someone email in and say, can I scout Sophia Smith? Because it doesn't seem like anyone is doing it. So I guess Matt and Chloe, let us know, do you want to continue scouting Sophia Smith, or can we pass Sophia Smith on to a new scout?
I think they want Sophia Smith, but we'll see. Russell Varner scouting Alex Mendez, 18-year-old American midfielder for the LA Galaxy. After little news about Mendez's trial in Germany, Russell was relieved to learn that Alex was named to Tab Romas's U20 squad for the 2018 U20 Men's Invitational this past weekend. More on that tournament later.
Yeah, don't the U20s play the U19s at some point?
You are correct.
Richie Garcia is scouting Emerson Hindman, the 22-year-old American midfielder on loan at Hibs from Bournemouth. Richie says Emerson has gotten time in each of Hibs' last 3 matches and has consistently looked good on the ball. However, Hibs look very disjointed in their attack and the players seem to lack chemistry. Hibs manager Neil Lennon, remember him, took the blame for the most recent 2-1 loss to Livingston. Neil Lennon said that perhaps that squad was not cohesive enough and did not fight for the win, and that might be his fault due to the number of changes in this last transfer window.
Yeah.
Sounds like some side-eye at Hindman there.
A little bit. That's why I left it in there. I was a little concerned. Connor Davis scouting Connor Ronan, 20-year-old Irish midfielder on loan at Walsall from Wolverhampton.
I'm interested to hear what's going on.
Ronan has moved to Walsall on loan through the end of the season. Thus far, the club has played a 4-4-2 formation to great effect, as they're currently 5th in League One. Ronan may struggle to break into the first team, as he is not a classic wide midfielder, and Walsall don't employ a true attacking midfielder, but the fixture congestion of the lower leagues should mean that he gets some minutes.
I mean, that's not much of a loan, right, if you go and not play?
Unless you have to adapt. Maybe they want him to be a wide midfielder or just a central midfielder.
I think maybe they just wanted to loan him out somewhere nearby, is basically what happened. And Warsaw is close to Wolverhampton, so they're just like, go over there for a bit.
Now who's being pragmatic?
We got some Portuguese people coming. Steve Renard is scouting Yuri Tielemans, the 21-year-old Belgian midfielder for Monaco. Steve said Tielemans started in a more advanced role and found the back of the net after a brutal mistake by Marseille. Falcao intercepted a bad back pass, but his shot was saved, and Yuri Tielemans was there to convert. He also helped start the break that led to a Falcao goal later in the game, but it wasn't enough because Monaco lost 3-2. Thank you to Steve for meeting up with us in DC, though.
Yes.
Remember Steve we met at halftime?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I do indeed. David Noashowski, that's what I was focused on when you were asking me if I remembered Steve, was properly pronouncing that one. I'm sure I got it wrong. Shashowski? I don't know. Scouting Sebastian Szymański, the 19-year-old Polish midfielder for Legia Warsaw. Sebastian played 71 minutes in a scoreless tie with the bottom of the table club Cracovia last weekend. Legia have struggled this season, as has Michael Pazdan, who got a red card in the 11th minute in his first game since the World Cup.
Didn't happen. Mike Spinelli.
Noashowski. That's what I'm going to say.
Mike Spinelli is scouting George Bello, the 16-year-old American left-back for Atlanta United. As discussed last week, Bello was a late sub in Atlanta's 3-1 loss to DC United. Atlanta conceded almost immediately, due in part to the fact that Bello was focused much more on attacking than defending. He didn't look out of place and offers a lot of quickness out wide. I would agree with everything there. He did have that one mishit cross that DC kind of scored on the counter from. Everything after that was really good.
Yep, I would agree. And I think, to Mike's point, that was basically what he was told to do. So you can't really fault him for not being defensively solid.
But maybe get your crosses off the floor.
Yeah, maybe that too. Philip Andriani scouting Andre Green, 20-year-old English winger on loan at Portsmouth from Aston Villa. After a decent preseason featuring a goal against West Ham and 2 against Dinamo Dresden, Green appeared to be finally making his return to Villa first team after last year was plagued by injury. However, after only 1 start and 3 substitute appearances in their first 5 matches, he was sent on a season-long loan to League One side Portsmouth. Lots of League One today. It seems as though after the recent takeover at Villa led to signings like Yannick Bolasie on loan from Everton,
didn't know that.
Green became surplus to requirements this season.
Ouch. John Barnett is scouting... This is
another really weird one.
Alexander Zinchenko, the 21-year-old Ukrainian left-back/midfielder at Manchester City. John says Alexander Zinchenko has been named to City's Champions League squad after it looked certain the 21-year-old would move this window. Wolves and City had successfully negotiated a move for the player, but Alexander turned down the move right before the end of the English transfer window. Real Betis also looked certain to sign the player before the end of the window, but the 2 clubs could not come to an agreement on the transfer fee. Sounds like maybe Zinchenko's a picky one.
A little bit. I wrote this as like, he forgot to say on loan at when he wrote Manchester City. I was wrong. Justin Hansen scouting Frank Kessié, the 21-year-old Ivorian midfielder for AC Milan. Frank the Tank has scored. In Milan's 2-1 home win against Roma, our hero used his cannon of a right leg to smash the ball home. Alternate take, he tapped it in from 3 yards out.
It's the second one because I saw it.
Yeah, it is. So far this season, Kessié has featured on the right side of a 3-man midfield alongside Giacomo Bonaventura and Lucas Bilia.
Chase Poole is scouting Gedson Fernandes, the 19-year-old Portuguese midfielder for Benfica. Chase says prior to the start of the season...
I didn't know anything about this guy, by the way.
Fernandes signed a new contract with Benfica, where he's been since he was 10.
Yep.
His new release clause is set at 120 million euros.
So he's good.
So far, he's played both right and left midfield and scored in Benfica's 2-1 aggregate win over Fenerbahce in Champions League qualifying. As a result, he was called into the Portugal squad for the friendly against Croatia and the League of Nations match against Italy. One of those has happened already. I wonder if he played.
You are correct, and I don't know. Dylan Viech scouting Kai Havertz, 19-year-old German midfielder for Bayer Leverkusen.
Kai Havertz finally aged a year.
Yeah.
He's been 18 for at least 12 months.
Oh, yeah. Somebody else in there who was 18 just turned 18. I think it was Alex Mendez, just turned 18 2 days ago.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Kai and Leverkusen haven't started the season as they would have liked, losing away to Mönchengladbach 2-0 and at home to Wolfsburg 3-1. Kai's been playing as a number 8 instead of his preferred number 10, but manager Heiko Herrlich expects big things, noting that Kai is the biggest talent he's seen since Toni Kroos. With that in mind, Kai was called up to the German national team for their Nations League opener against France, which I have not seen, but by all accounts was an excellent game.
I believe no goals, but an excellent game. Yeah. That's what I've heard. We're going to do a Nations League wrap-up on Wednesday or Thursday, right? Michael.
So I've been told.
Michael, do you want to? If you don't want to.
No, I'm down. I know you do. So I feel like every time we've talked the last 4 days, you've had Nations League.
Yeah, I'm pumped for it. I've enjoyed people's reactions to it as well. Seems like people are into it.
You mean the ones that you solicited?
Michael Thompson is scouting Chris Gloucester, the 18-year-old American left-back for Hanover 2. This is a conversation for Wednesday or Thursday. Michael says Chris Gloucester has scored his first professional point, picking up an assist off of a corner in his first full 90-minute performance for Hanover 2. Is an assist a point?
I guess so.
Okay.
That's my answer to that question.
Is it in like hockey or something? Is it a point?
I believe
so.
An
assist?
Yeah.
Maybe in early MLS days, they might have done it that way. He hit a good in-swinging ball that was headed home at the top of the 6-yard box. Well done, Chris Gloucester. Speaking of racking up points, he's also picking up a whole lot of frequent flyer miles. Maybe this is just a technique that Michael was using.
Yeah.
A rhetorical technique. He's picking up a whole lot of frequent flyer miles.
Easy at copy editor.
Yeah, sorry, Michael. I didn't mean to ruin it. Flying from Hanover to Florida to join the US U20s, that's what you meant, for their U20 men's invitational tournament matches against Venezuela, Jamaica, and the US U19s. Youth tournaments are weird, says Michael.
Indeed, they are. And also, it is always a huge difference when you play a team that is a year younger than you. You wouldn't think it is. It definitely is.
Yep, and you better hope you don't lose.
Yeah.
Thank you to everybody who sent in their scouting reports. Thank you to everybody who has joined the Total Soccer Show Scouting Network. I want to shout out again the new thing we're offering called Talent Spotter, where you join up at $5 a month or more, and you don't have to scout a player, because it can be a bit of work, right, to keep track of a player. Just ask Sophia Smith. But instead, you can get access to a document called the Talent Spotter document, where you just recommend players that should be in the Scouting Network. And a shout out to Kyle Knight, who's been adding players to the Scouting Network document.
So well done, Kyle Knight. What have you done to your hand? How have you gotten ink all over your hand with a pen that you didn't even pick up?
It's not as bad as it looks. There's ink there, but the sort of dark grey background is I broke my door lock today, so this was me trying to put my door lock back together.
I see. Okay, all right. So it's more tragic than it is amusing that you still can't operate.
It's more
a pen.
of a DIY fail, than a penmanship fail. It's both. I think it's going to be two things.
By the way, listeners, time is of the essence, but I have to add this: if you ever want to see Daryl just the life drain out of Daryl Grove. Force him to listen to a conversation about DIY or home improvement. It's my favorite thing in the world. It really is. It's like I promise I'm not trying to force this analogy, but it really is like the end of Last Crusade, where just you see the life force just drain out of the person. That's what it looks like to me.
I need to moisturize more. It sounds like. Do you know what I'm going to do from now on? If people start talking DIY, I'm going to start talking about how the UEFA Nations League works.
You totally should. That's right up there with your Halloween costume being the Hex and no one knowing what it was. That was amazing.
So the thing about the Euro 2020 qualifying playoffs that people don't understand is...
And then their eyes glaze over.
Yeah, but it's better than listening to, their kitchen thing they're doing or whatever.
Yep.
All right, Tyler Rockwell, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
And thank the world for small talk headlocks. But right back at you, buddy.
Listeners, thank you for listening. We'll be back again after the USA versus Mexico.